Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to enable filtering in the jQuery client-side grid by Infogestics. We're going to start off with simple grid attached to a client-side data source. So let's quickly go through what we have already set up in this HTML page. What I have up here in the references section is that I'm pulling in all the required scripts that are needed for the control to be instantiated on the client, and also see the CSS that's required to display the different elements of the client control, like the rows and alternate rows in the header section and so on and so forth. So once we have all the required references, in the script block up here, I'm creating a client-side JSON array which holds a product definition of 20 records, and it has a product ID, a description, a number, and a product price. Then in the jQuery onload function, I'm grabbing the DOM element, the table element described here at the bottom, and converting that into the client-side jQuery grid control. In there, I'm setting up some options. So I'm setting up auto-generate columns to false because I am defining the columns by hand here. So in my columns definition, I'm setting the header text key and the width of each of the columns that are coming from my JSON array. But a couple of columns, I'm also setting the data type to be a number, because the product ID, we know it's a number, and the product price is also of a type number. And we'll show you in a second why we're doing that. By default, if we don't set a data type, it gets to be the string type. Next, data source option of the grid to be the client-side JSON array that we've described here. So let's run this in the browser and see what we have. So here you can see that the grid is using the client-side JSON array that we have defined, and when we're binding to it, it's taking all that information, creating the columns, and displaying the data. What we're going to do here, we want to enable filtering so that the user can go ahead and filter on the data that we have present. Let's come back into Visual Studio and define a feature. Just like the columns array, there's also a features array which holds all the different feature definition of the grid. So we're going to create a feature and close our square bracket. And then in here, we just can set up a name of the feature that you want to enable. So in this case, it'll be filtering. The type that we want the feature to support. In this case, it's going to be local. You can also have remote filtering. So if you don't have the data available on the client and you want to do remote operations to your server and filter data on the database, if you wanted to, you can do that by setting up this to be remote. Anytime your user does a filter operation, you can make a call to server and bring back the required data. And one last setting we're going to set here is the mode. We're going to set the simple mode, and there's an advanced mode, which I'm going to show you in a second. So by setting up the feature, name filtering, type will be local, and mode simple, let's see what we have at runtime. So same grid, same data, but now you see there's an extra filter row added to the control, meaning that you can actually now filter on the data here. Remember I set the data type column. We set that for the product ID and the product price. The reason being that these filter conditions are context sensitive. So what that means is that depending on the data type of the column, you will see the drop down operator accordingly. So here in this case, because it's a type number, you get equals, does not equal, greater than, less than, accordingly. But in these two columns, we didn't specify data type, and it took it as a string. So if we do a drop down, you see starts with, end with, contains, does not contain, equals, does not equal. So because it's a string column, you get a different option. And similarly here, you see the numeric options, and for the product number, you'll see the string option. So for the types of columns, if it's not defined in the schema, you have to manually define in the column definition. So let's go ahead and apply the filter. So we have about different products here. Let's see all the products that are greater than 820. So we can do that, and it's going to filter that. It's going to update the bottom bar here with the number of records that are matching the filter. Let's also do another filter on the product price. So we'll see greater than let's say 100, and let's tab out of it. So now you have 13 records being displayed in the grid. And I can also go ahead and do a filter on this column. So that's it contains the word mount. And once we do that, we have now 5 records being displayed here. So Just by doing that, just by enabling filtering and setting it to be local, because all of JSON data is on the client, and setting it to be the mode to be simple, you get this filter row, and the user has a drop down, and they can type the text here, and the grid is going to filter that data accordingly. So let's go back and see what the other mode does. So the other mode is called advanced. Once we do that, run our app in the browser. You don't see the filter row, but you see this filter icons in the header of the grid. When you hover on it, it says no filter applied. When I click on it, it gives me a nice advanced search box. And in here, I can actually set up my criteria all at once and do a search on the entire data source. So let's do the same thing that we did before. The product ID greater than 820, and let's add another condition to be product price greater than 100, and do a search. Again, same thing, but using advanced filtering, you can add as many possible filter conditions to the grid and apply it all once using the search button. And it gets applied, you get the bottom bar updated, and your grid displays the data according to the filter condition that you set. So again, this is a short video. You saw how easy it is to enable filtering, set up some properties, enable it on advanced or simple mode, and also if you have data available locally, then you can set the type to be local, or if you're doing remote operations, then you can do it remote filtering to your data source. Thanks for watching the video.
Infragistics. On the web at infragistics.com.